My hands trembled as I held the acceptance letters from 3 prestigious universities. Each envelope represented a different version of my future, all of them better than the suffocating present I was living in. I'm Autumn, and this should have been the happiest day of my life. Mom! Dad! I rushed down the stairs, nearly tripping over my own feet. I got in! All 3 of them accepted me! The living room fell silent. Mom's perfectly manicured fingers tightened around her coffee cup. Dad lowered his newspaper, that familiar crease between his eyebrows deepening. My sister Madeline, home from her banking internship, didn't even look up from her phone. "Sweetheart," Mom started, exchanging a look with Dad. "We need to discuss something." I knew that tone. It was the same one she used when telling me I couldn't go to summer camp because Madeline's tennis lessons were more important, or when my art supplies had to wait because Madeline needed a new laptop. "We've been meaning to talk to you about college," Dad said, folding his newspaper with deliberate precision. "With Madeline's final year at business school and her upcoming position at Sterling Bank, our finances are stretched thin." The acceptance letters suddenly felt heavy, like stones in my hands. "But," I thought, "you know how important Madeline's career is for our family's future," Mom cut in. "The connections she's making, the opportunities ahead of her." Madeline finally looked up, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Don't worry, little sister. There are plenty of jobs that don't require a degree." My throat burned. "I've been working part-time for 2 years saving up. I can apply for scholarships, take out loans." "Absolutely not." Dad's voice hardened. "We can't risk any loans affecting our credit. Madeline needs a clean financial slate for her career advancement." I stared at them, these familiar strangers who called themselves my family. 22 years of second place, of maybe next times, and Madeline needs it mores, crashed over me like a tidal wave. "So that's it?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Madeline gets everything and I get nothing, again." "Don't be dramatic," Mom sighed. "We're thinking about what's best for everyone." "Everyone?" I laughed, and the sound was sharp enough to make Madeline flinch. "You mean what's best for her?" "That's enough." Dad stood up. "This discussion is over. You'll find something local, something practical. The hotel you're working at seems to like you well enough." I looked down at the acceptance letters, at the dreams they represented. Then I watched as they slipped from my fingers, scattering across the floor like fallen leaves. "You're right, Dad," I said quietly. "This discussion is over." I turned and walked away, ignoring Mom's calls behind me. In my room, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. The Luxor Hotel's employee portal glowed on the screen. I'd been working there part-time while finishing high school, learning every aspect of the hospitality business I could. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Sophie. "How did it go? Did you tell them?" I typed back. "They chose her, again." Sophie's response was immediate. "I'm coming over, don't do anything crazy." But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. Years of swallowed hurt crystallized into something harder, colder. They thought the hotel was good enough for me? Fine. I'd show them exactly what I could do without their precious support or connections. I opened a new tab and searched for Ethan Collins, CEO, Pinnacle Hotels. His face smiled back at me from the screen, confident and successful. I'd heard rumors he was looking to mentor promising young talent in the industry. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destruction. It's about rising so high that those who dismissed you have to crane their necks just to see how far they've fallen behind. I saved his contact information just as Sophie's car pulled into the driveway. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning. The party buzzed with fake laughter and designer perfume. I stood in the corner of our living room, watching Madeline work the crowd at her graduation celebration. Every few minutes, someone would mention her new position at Sterling Bank, and Mom would beam like she'd personally arranged the sunrise. "Another drink?" Sophie appeared at my side, offering a glass of champagne. "Thanks, but I need to stay sharp. Early shift tomorrow." I smoothed down my Luxor hotel uniform, the polyester a stark contrast to the silk and cashmere surrounding me. "You could call in sick," Sophie suggested. "One day won't—" "Autumn!" Mom's voice cut through the chatter. "Come help serve the hors d'oeuvres. You have experience with this sort of thing now, don't you?" The room rippled with polite titters. I caught Madeline's smirk before she turned back to her adoring audience. "Of course, Mother," I replied, my voice honey-sweet. "Just like at work, where I've been promoted to junior events coordinator." Mom's smile flickered. She hadn't known about the promotion. I hadn't bothered telling them. That's nice, dear. Now the salmon puffs need refreshing. I moved through the crowd, tray in hand, collecting fragments of conversation like broken glass. Both daughters in business, someone remarked to Dad. How wonderful, he coughed. Well, Madeline's in finance. Autumn is just finding her way. Just finding my way. 6 months of 60-hour weeks, learning every aspect of hotel operations, earning that promotion through pure grit, all reduced to finding my way. Did you hear? Madeline's voice carried across the room. Sterling's fast-tracking me for management. Daddy's golf partner put in a good word. The salmon puffs trembled on my tray. Of course. Everything handed to her, wrapped in a bow. Autumn? Sophie touched my arm. You're grinding your teeth again. Before I could respond, Jessica Reynolds, my new colleague at Luxor, swept into the room. I hadn't invited her. Hadn't even mentioned the party. Madeline! Jessica air-kissed my sister. Congratulations! I just had to stop by when I heard about the celebration. My sister preened. Jessica, darling! I didn't know you and my sister were friends. Oh, we worked together at that charming little hotel. Jessica's laugh tinkled like breaking ice. Although I hear there might be an opening at Sterling's corporate events department. The pieces clicked. Jessica hadn't come for me. She'd come for Madeline. For connections. For opportunities I'd never be offered. I set down the tray and walked to the kitchen, my hands shaking. Through the serving window, I watched Jessica and Madeline huddle together, whispering and giggling, planning, plotting. They make quite a pair, don't they? Mom appeared beside me, refilling her wine. You know, Jessica's family has excellent connections. Perhaps she could help you find something more suitable than hotel work. I turned to face her. You mean something that wouldn't embarrass you at parties? Don't be difficult, Autumn. We want what's best for you. No, I said quietly. You want what's best for Madeline. I'm just the backup plan, the safety net, the one who serves appetizers while she serves herself my future. Mom's face hardened. That's enough. This is your sister's day. Don't ruin it with your jealousy. I watched her rejoin the party, where Dad was now regaling guests with stories of Madeline's academic achievements. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus Hayes, my manager at Luxor. Meeting tomorrow with Ethan Collins. He asked specifically about you. Don't be late. I looked up through the serving window again. Jessica was showing Madeline something on her phone, both of them laughing. Mom and Dad orbited their golden child like adoring satellites. The perfect family portrait, complete with the servant in the kitchen. My fingers tightened around the phone. Ethan Collins, CEO of Pinnacle Hotels, known for mentoring rising stars in the industry. He'd noticed me, asked for me. I typed back, I'll be there. Sophie appeared in the kitchen doorway. Want to escape? No, I said, straightening my uniform. I want to serve them all dessert, and then I want to go home and prepare for tomorrow's meeting. Autumn? Don't worry, I smiled, and it felt like baring teeth. I'm just finding my way. I picked up the dessert tray, my reflection distorted in its silver surface. Tomorrow, Ethan Collins would meet someone hungry for success, someone willing to do whatever it took to rise above the family that buried her. Let them laugh, let them plot, let them think they know what I'm capable of. They'll learn. The Sterling Bank Charity Gala sparkled with wealth and pretense. I adjusted my name tag. Autumn Turner, Events Coordinator, Luxor Hotel. And watched Madeline work the room. 3 months into her new position, and already she was hosting major events. Your sister's quite the rising star, Marcus said, appearing beside me with 2 glasses of water. Youngest associate to handle the charity portfolio, I heard. Fascinating. I accepted the water, noting how the bank's CEO kept patting Madeline's shoulder. Almost like magic. Marcus lowered his voice. Speaking of magic, how was your meeting with Ethan Collins? Before I could answer, I spotted Gerald Watson, my father's oldest friend and golf partner, heading for the bar. The same man who'd supposedly recommended Madeline for her fast-track position. Hold that thought, I murmured, moving through the crowd. Gerald was alone in the bar, studying the scotch selection. Perfect. Mr. Watson, I smiled, sliding onto the stool next to him. How's retirement treating you? He turned, squinting slightly. Autumn? Good Lord, you're all grown up. Still at that hotel? Moving up quickly, I said. Just like Madeline. Though she had some help, didn't she? His expression flickered. I'm not sure what you mean. Not sure. Your recommendation? I kept my voice light. Dad mentioned how instrumental you were in getting her noticed. Gerald shifted uncomfortably. Well, that is... He took a long sip of scotch. Actually, I never made any recommendation. Robert asked me to take credit, said it would look better than admitting he'd called in favors from his old fraternity brothers. The room tilted slightly. Fraternity brothers? Oh yes, quite a network. Your mother's family connections too. Very influential in banking circles. He chuckled. Though I suppose you know all this, being family. I didn't. I knew nothing. If you'll excuse me, I managed, standing up. The room felt too bright, too loud. I found Sophie by the dessert table. I need air. She followed me onto the terrace, where the night air did nothing to cool the burning in my chest. What happened? They lied. My hands gripped the railing. All of them. Dad never asked Gerald Watson for help. He used his whole network. Mom, too. They've been paving Madeline's way since before graduation. Autumn. Everything she has, everything she's achieved, it's all engineered. While I've been working 60-hour weeks, learning every aspect of hotel operations, earning every single step up. Miss Turner? A server appeared at the door. Mr. Collins is on the phone for you. Says it's urgent? I straightened, smoothing my dress. Tell him I'll call back in 5 minutes. Sophie touched my arm. What are you going to do? Through the window, I could see my family gathered around Madeline as she addressed the crowd. Mom beaming, Dad proud, their perfect daughter bathed in spotlight they'd secretly arranged. I'm going to take Ethan's offer, I said. He wants to mentor me? Fine. I'll learn everything he knows about the hotel industry. Every connection, every strategy, every secret. And then I'll build something of my own. Something real. Something they can't ignore or dismiss. I turned away from the window. And when I'm done, everyone will know exactly how their precious Madeline really got where she is. You're starting to scare me, Sophie whispered. I smiled, and it felt like breaking glass. Good, because I'm starting to scare myself. Inside, Madeline was announcing a new initiative, her initiative, supposedly, to revolutionize corporate banking relationships. The crowd applauded, and I watched Gerald Watson shift uncomfortably at the bar. My phone buzzed. Another message from Ethan Collins. Decision time, Autumn. Are you ready to play in the big leagues? I looked at my family one last time. The carefully constructed image of success they'd built on a foundation of lies and favoritism. Then I typed my response. Yes. When do we start? Sophie read the message over my shoulder. There's no going back from this, you know. Going back to what? I slipped my phone into my clutch. To being the family disappointment? The one they couldn't be bothered to support? The one serving drinks at her sister's parties? To being the better person. I laughed, and the sound was sharp enough to make heads turn. Maybe I'm tired of being the better person. Maybe it's time to be the smarter one instead. The server reappeared. Miss Turner, Mr. Collins is still holding. I straightened my spine, felt the weight of years of second-place finishes fall away. Tell him I'm on my way to his office now. And Sophie? Yeah? Don't wait up. Don't wait. I walked through the gala, past my oblivious family, past Gerald Watson and his guilty conscience, past all the carefully maintained lies. It was time to learn how the game was really played. And then, change all the rules. Ethan Collins' office felt like a cage of glass and steel. He sat across from me, studying the proposal I'd spent weeks perfecting, a complete overhaul of Pinnacle Hotel's event management system. Impressive, he said finally, especially coming from someone without formal business education. The words stung, but I kept my face neutral. Results speak louder than degrees. Indeed. He tapped the proposal. Which is why I'm putting you in charge of implementing this across all our properties. My heart jumped. This was it. The breakthrough I'd been working toward. Then he added, starting with the Sterling Bank corporate retreat next month. The air left the room. Sterling Bank? Problem? His smile didn't reach his eyes. I thought you'd be pleased. Your sister's department is handling their end. Perfect opportunity for family collaboration. Of course, nothing in my life could ever be simple. I appreciate the opportunity, I said carefully. But perhaps another client. This isn't a request, Autumn. Ethan's voice hardened. Unless you're not ready for real responsibility. The threat was clear. I'd seen others refuse his opportunities. They didn't last long at Pinnacle. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. 911, call me about Madeline. I'll make it work, I told Ethan, standing. Is there anything else? Outside, I found a quiet corner and called Sophie. You're not going to believe this, she said. Jessica Reynolds just got promoted at Luxor. Guess who recommended her? Madeline? Better, your parents. They're on the bank's hospitality advisory board now. They're systematically placing their people in hotels across the city. My fingers tightened around the phone. Why? Control, power. Take your pick. But here's the kicker. Marcus overheard Jessica talking about some big plan for the Sterling retreat. Something about proving traditional hotels can't handle modern corporate needs. The pieces clicked. Madeline's department, my parents' sudden interest in hotels, Ethan's insistence on this particular project. They're setting me up to fail, I whispered. What are you going to do? I watched Ethan through his office window, already on another call, probably plotting someone else's career. Down the hall, Jessica Reynolds walked past, smirking at me. Meet me tonight, I said. Bring Marcus. I need to know everything about Jessica's involvement. Autumn, Sophie hesitated. Maybe it's time to walk away. Find another industry. Start fresh somewhere they can't reach you. I thought of all the times I'd stepped aside, made way, stayed quiet. No, they want to play games? Fine. But they're about to learn I'm not the same naive girl they can push around. What's your plan? Through the window, I could see Ethan ending his call, gesturing for me to return. First, I accept their challenge, make them think their trap is working. Then I show them what happens when you underestimate the wrong person. I ended the call and walked back into Ethan's office, where he waited with contracts ready to sign. Everything all right? He asked, that same calculating smile in place. Perfect, I replied, signing my name with steady hands. Just confirming dinner with my sister. We have so much to catch up on. Later, in my apartment, I spread out everything I had. Project plans, staff records, financial reports. Sophie and Marcus sat across from me, their faces grim as they shared what they knew about Jessica's schemes. You realize, Marcus said quietly, if you fight this, you're not just taking on Jessica or your sister. You're challenging your whole family's power structure. I picked up a photo from my desk, the last family picture we'd taken, before I learned the truth about their manipulations, before I understood that love in my family came with conditions and rankings. They thought giving me this project was their move, I said, dropping the photo into the trash. They didn't realize it's exactly what I needed, access to their whole network. One event to expose everything they've built on lies and favoritism. And Ethan? Sophie asked. He's not going to just stand by and watch. I smiled, thinking of the backup files I'd already secured, the conversations I'd recorded. No, he's going to do exactly what people like him always do. Try to control everything. And that's going to be his biggest mistake. The city lights flickered outside my window, and somewhere across town, my family was probably congratulating themselves on their clever plan. Let them celebrate. They'd learn soon enough that they'd handed matches to the wrong person to play with. The Sterling Bank retreat was 3 days away when Daniel Brooks walked into my office at Pinnacle Hotels. Tall, confident, with a smile that suggested he knew things others didn't. Impressive setup you have here, he said, studying the event plans spread across my desk. Though I expected Madeline's sister to be more like her. My pen stilled. You know Madeline. We've been seeing each other. He settled into the chair across from me. She mentioned you might need help with the retreat. Something about your limited experience with high-end corporate events? Of course she had. I forced a smile. That's thoughtful of her. But I have everything under control. Do you? He slid a folder across my desk. Because these security reports suggest otherwise. Inside were detailed assessments of every vulnerability in my event plan. Staffing gaps, technical weaknesses, potential points of failure. Things only someone with inside access would know. Where did you get these? Let's just say I have interest in both banking and hospitality. His smile never wavered. I could help you fix these issues. For a price. Before I could respond, Ethan appeared in my doorway. Daniel, I see you've met our rising star. The two men exchanged a look that made my skin crawl. Just offering some friendly advice, Daniel said, standing. Think about it, Autumn. You wouldn't want anything to go wrong at such a crucial event. After he left, Ethan lingered. Daniel's well-connected. It would be wise to consider his offer. Like you considered his help with other projects? Ethan's expression hardened. Careful, Autumn. You're playing in deeper waters now. That evening, I met Sophie at our usual bar. They're working together, I said, showing her photos I'd taken of the security reports. Ethan, Daniel, Madeline, it's all connected. There's more. Sophie pushed her phone across the table. On it was an article about Sterling Bank's new venture capital division, headed by Daniel Brooks. Guess who's on the advisory board? My parents? And Ethan Collins. The pieces clicked together like a poisonous puzzle. They weren't just trying to sabotage my event. They were positioning themselves to take control of Pinnacle Hotels through Sterling Bank's investment arm. My phone buzzed. A text from Madeline. Dinner tomorrow? We should talk about the retreat. Don't go, Sophie warned. It's obviously a trap. No, I said, typing my response. It's an opportunity. The next night, I sat across from Madeline at her favorite restaurant, watching her perform her concerned sister act. We're worried about you, Autumn, she said, reaching for my hand. All this pressure, no formal training. It's not fair to you. I pulled away. Like it wasn't fair when Mom and Dad funded your degree but not mine? That was different. They knew I'd make good use of it. She sighed. Look, Daniel can help smooth things over. Make sure you come out of this looking competent. In exchange for what? Just some minor adjustments to the event plan. Nothing serious. She smiled Mom's smile. We're family after all. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. Yes, we are. And that's exactly why this is going to hurt so much more than you expect. What are you talking about? You'll see. I dropped my napkin on the table. Give my best to Daniel, and Ethan, and everyone else involved in your little scheme. Her face paled. Autumn, don't be stupid. You can't fight this. Watch me. Back at my office, I found Marcus waiting with a stack of documents. You were right, he said. I found the connection. Daniel's company has been buying up shares in Pinnacle through shell corporations. They're planning a hostile takeover. I looked out at the city lights, at the Sterling Bank Tower gleaming in the distance. How long until they have controlling interest? 2 weeks, maybe less. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd been saving. Time to call in that favor, I said when the line connected. I need everything you have on Daniel Brooks and his connection to Sterling Bank's investment practices. And the retreat? Marcus asked after I hung up. I smiled, thinking of all the evidence I'd been gathering, all the pieces finally falling into place. Oh, the retreat is definitely happening, just not quite the way they planned. They'll destroy you if this goes wrong. Maybe. I picked up Daniel's security report, now marked with my own notes and plans. But I'm done being the sister who steps aside, the daughter who stays quiet, the employee who plays by their rules. What are you going to do? I looked at my reflection in the window, barely recognizing the person I'd become. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, and then I'm going to take everything they have. The Sterling Bank retreat imploded spectacularly. I stood in Ethan's office, watching the security footage play out on his laptop. Servers collapsing, tech failures, VIP guests trapped in elevators. Everything I'd planned, everything I'd worked for destroyed in 6 hours of calculated chaos. Quite a show, Ethan said, closing the laptop. Though not quite the performance we expected from you. I can explain. Can you? He slid a folder across his desk. Explain these, perhaps? Inside were photos. Me meeting with Marcus late at night, conversations with Sophie, Screenshots of encrypted emails. My entire plan laid bare. You really thought we wouldn't be watching? Ethan's smile was razor sharp. That we wouldn't notice you gathering evidence, planning your little revenge? The door opened. Daniel walked in, followed by Madeline. My sister's face held none of its usual smugness, only cold determination. The board's waiting, Daniel said to Ethan. They want to hear her explanation directly. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. They're seizing the files. All of them. I'm sorry. Before we go up, Madeline stepped forward. I thought you should know. Mom and Dad just removed you from the family trust, officially. The words hit like physical blows. Everything I'd built, every piece of leverage I'd gathered, crumbling in minutes. You did this to yourself, Madeline continued. If you'd just accepted your place. My place, I laughed, and the sound was hollow. You mean under your shadow? Serving drinks at your parties? Better than unemployment. Ethan stood. The board's decision is already made. We're just giving you the courtesy of defending yourself. Though I wouldn't bother, Daniel added. The evidence is quite comprehensive. They led me to the boardroom like a prisoner to execution. Familiar faces lined the table. Business leaders, bank executives, my parents' carefully cultivated network. Mom and Dad sat near the head, not meeting my eyes. Miss Turner, the board chairman began. We've reviewed the evidence of your attempted corporate espionage and sabotage. I stopped listening. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the city stretching out. All those glittering towers built on connections and favors, on families protecting their own. My phone buzzed again. Sophie this time. They got to Marcus. He's recanting everything. Effective immediately, the chairman was saying. Furthermore, given the severity of these actions, Madeline touched my arm, her voice soft with fake concern. Just admit it, Autumn. Make this easier on yourself. I looked at my sister, at Ethan and Daniel flanking her like guards, at my parents still avoiding my gaze, all of them so certain of their victory, of their right to decide my fate. Miss Turner? The chairman's voice hardened. Do you have anything to say in your defense? I stood, my chair scraping against marble floors. Just one thing. Choose your words carefully, Ethan warned. I pulled out my phone, opened an email, and pressed send. You should check your phones, all of you, right now. The room filled with buzzing and chimes. I watched their faces as they read, confusion turning to shock, then fear. What is this? Daniel's voice cracked. Insurance, I said. Every conversation, every deal, every favor called in. I may be going down, but I'm not going alone. You're bluffing, Madeline whispered. Am I? Ask Ethan about the offshore accounts. Ask Daniel about the shell companies. Ask our parents about the donations that bought your career. The room erupted in chaos. My father finally looked at me, his face ashen. What have you done? Exactly what you taught me, I replied. Family first, right? I walked out, leaving them scrambling to contain the damage. In the elevator, my hands finally started shaking. I'd lost everything. My job, my family, my reputation. But I'd made them bleed. Outside, Sophie waited in her car. That bad? Worse. I slid into the passenger seat. But it's not over. Autumn, she hesitated. Maybe it should be. You could start fresh somewhere else, away from all this. I watched Madeline and Daniel burst out of the building, phones pressed to their ears, faces panicked. No. This isn't the end. Then what is it? I thought of all the evidence I still held back, all the secrets I hadn't yet revealed. It's just the beginning of their fall. Sophie started the car and we pulled away from the curb. Behind us, my old life crumbled. Ahead, something darker waited. Let them think they'd won. Let them celebrate their victory. They'd learn soon enough. Sometimes you have to lose everything to become truly dangerous. 3 months after my fall from Pinnacle Hotels, I watched Madeline's engagement party from across the street. The city's elite filtered into the grand ballroom of the Sterling Bank Tower, celebrating her upcoming marriage to Daniel Brooks, the perfect power couple according to the society pages. My phone buzzed with an alert. Sterling Bank stocks plummet amid fraud investigation, right on schedule. Right. Inside, the party was in full swing. I adjusted my catering uniform, nodding to Sophie at the bar. She'd infiltrated the event planning team weeks ago, ensuring everything was in place. Autumn? Marcus's voice crackled through my earpiece. SEC agents are in position, waiting for your signal. I moved through the crowd, invisible in my server's outfit. Madeline stood at the center of it all, glowing in designer white, Daniel's arm around her waist. Our parents beamed nearby, while Ethan Collins worked the room like the puppet master he thought he was. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel clinked his glass. I'd like to propose a toast. Actually, I stepped forward, removing my serving apron. I have something to say first. The room froze. Madeline's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on marble floors. Security! Ethan barked, but Sophie was already blocking the doors with hotel staff. My people, not his. What are you doing here? Madeline hissed. I smiled, pulling out my phone. Finishing what you all started. Check the markets, Daniel. Your little empire's crumbling as we speak. He grabbed his phone, face draining of color. This is impossible. The offshore accounts were traced, I finished. Amazing what people will reveal when they think they've destroyed you, when they get sloppy with their secrets. Enough! Mom stepped forward. You're making a scene. Like you made a scene disinheriting me? Or when you orchestrated my removal from Pinnacle? I turned to the increasingly uncomfortable crowd. Did you know your hosts built their success on fraud? That every deal, every promotion, every achievement was bought and paid for? Security! Ethan shouted again. They won't come, I said. They're too busy letting federal agents into your offices. All of your offices. Madeline lunged for me, but Daniel held her back, his eyes fixed on his phone as notifications flooded in. You've ruined everything, she spat. No, sister dear. I learned from the best. From you, from them. I gestured to our parents, to Ethan. Family first, remember? Protect your own? Well, I'm done being the one you sacrifice. Miss Turner? A voice cut through the chaos. A federal agent stepped forward, flanked by others. We need these individuals to come with us. I watched them lead away my family, Ethan, Daniel, all the architects of my destruction. Madeline stopped beside me, tears streaking her perfect makeup. How? She whispered. How did you do this? I had help. Marcus never really betrayed me. We planned it together. Every piece of evidence he gave you was carefully selected. While you celebrated my downfall, I gathered the real proof. And Sophie? I nodded to my friend. She's been documenting everything since that first charity gala. I'll fight this, she warned. We all will. With what? I showed her my phone. Transfers, emails, recorded conversations. Your entire network is compromised. Every favor called in, every deal made, even Mom and Dad's precious reputation. An agent took her arm. Miss Turner, please. You know the funny thing? I called after her. I never wanted any of this. All I wanted was a chance. Equal treatment. A family that saw me. She looked back, and for a moment, I saw something like understanding cross her face. Then the elevator doors closed, taking her away. Sophie appeared at my side as the crowd dispersed, whispers and shocked conversations filling the air. Was it worth it? I watched through the windows as police lights flashed below, as reporters gathered like vultures. Tomorrow, every newspaper would carry the story. The spectacular fall of Sterling Bank's golden family, of Pinnacle Hotel's corrupt CEO, of the perfect daughter's fraudulent rise. Ask me tomorrow, I said, turning away from the window. Right now, we have a hotel to run. I smiled, thinking of the investors who'd backed me after seeing the evidence, of the empire I'd built from the ashes of their betrayal. Karma's a funny thing, isn't it? They tried to bury me, not realizing I was a seed. Outside, the city lights sparkled like broken glass, beautiful and dangerous, just like revenge. The grand opening of Turner Plaza Hotel gleamed with promise. My name, just mine, shone in elegant letters above the entrance. Inside, the city's elite mingled, pretending they hadn't watched my family's empire crumble in the newspapers. Quite a turnout, Sophie said, adjusting my jacket, though I noticed some notable absences. I smiled, thinking of Madeline and her ankle monitor, of our parents hiding in their downsized home, of Ethan facing federal charges. They'll read about it tomorrow, Marcus appeared with a tablet. Final numbers are in. We're fully booked through next quarter. And the Sterling Bank building? Sold at auction this morning. To us. He grinned. Perfect spot for our next expansion. The irony wasn't lost on me. The tower that had once symbolized my family's rejection would soon bear my name instead. Miss Turner? A familiar voice made me turn. Gerald Watson stood there, looking older than I remembered. I wanted to congratulate you, and apologize. For my part in all of it. No need, I said. You helped expose the truth in the end. Even if you didn't mean to. He nodded, understanding the dismissal. As he walked away, I caught sight of Jessica Reynolds serving drinks. She'd begged for any position after Sterling's collapse. Sometimes karma worked perfectly. There's someone else here to see you, Sophie murmured. In your office. I found Madeline waiting, her designer clothes replaced by something simpler. Her usual confidence dimmed. Nice security, she said. They almost didn't let me in. Why are you here? She placed an envelope on my desk. Mom and Dad's lawyers found this in their files. Your college acceptance letters. They kept them. Of course they did. I didn't touch the envelope. Trophies of their control. No, Madeline's voice cracked. They were guilty. Every time they helped me, funded me, pushed me forward, they kept these as reminders of what they'd done to you. Is that supposed to make me feel better? It's supposed to make you understand. She met my eyes. They knew you were the stronger one, the smarter one. They pushed me forward because they knew you'd succeed anyway. I laughed, but the sound held no humor. And that justifies everything? No. Nothing justifies what we did. She turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth, you've proved them right. You did succeed. Without help, without connections, without anything but your own strength. Goodbye, Madeline. After she left, I picked up the envelope, feeling the weight of those old dreams. Then I dropped it in the shredder without opening it. Sophie found me later on the rooftop terrace overlooking the city. You okay? I should feel triumphant, I said. I won. I took everything they had, built something bigger from the ruins. But I keep thinking about those acceptance letters, about who I might have been without all this pain and betrayal. You can still be that person, Sophie suggested. The revenge is done. The hotel's successful. Maybe it's time to what? Forgive them? To forgive yourself. She handed me a glass of champagne. For becoming someone who could hurt them as deeply as they hurt you. Below, guests departed in expensive cars, already spreading word of the new power player in town. My phone buzzed with messages from investors, developers, people who'd once dismissed me now begging for meetings. The funny thing is, I said, I thought revenge would feel like winning, like finally being seen, but standing here at the top of everything I built. What does it feel like? I thought of Madeline's words, of those shredded acceptance letters, of all the paths not taken. It feels like learning to see myself. The city lights flickered, stars trying to shine through smog and neon. Somewhere out there, my family was living with the consequences of their choices, just as I was living with mine. To new beginnings, Sophie raised her glass. I clinked mine against hers, but didn't drink. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles, new choices between mercy and vengeance. The game wasn't over. It had just changed. And this time, I was writing all the rules.